access the podcast of OA. Located deep within Sector 14845 and powered by the Emerald Light of Will, the podcast of OA is your guide to the Green Lantern universe. Hosted by Lantern Myron Rumsey, the podcast of OA begins now.
Hey, Lantern fans, welcome to episode number 247 of the podcast of OA. I'm your co-host, Myron Rumsey, and I am joined by my friend on the other end, Mr. Phil Bova. Phil, my friend, I don't know about you, but I am so jazzed to be recording tonight. There's so much to talk about, so much great stuff to talk about. I can't wait to dig into it.
On a side note, I have to say that not going to Comic-Con, I was a little sad, jealous, envious, and a little pissy about it this past weekend.
I've been dealing with a torn muscle in my calf for the last 3 weeks, so I can't walk around anyway. So I was just as happy because I wouldn't be able to enjoy it anyhow. This thing has just been a killer. My wife and I play pickleball, and I was running towards the net a couple weeks ago. Felt a pop. It felt like a rubber band snap, and down I went. And so I've been dealing with a lot of pain, and they did not give me any pain medication for this. So I just been gutting it out. I've been doing it on sheer willpower, my friend.
I'll tell you what, when you feel a pop anywhere over the age of 50, that's a worrisome pop.
You're right. You know, it's like after you hit 50, that check engine light starts coming on, man.
Yeah.
And any little thing, it's like I wasn't even running hard, but boy. So yeah, I'm at the point where if I take the boot off, I know I'm not supposed to, but I have to take a shower. I can walk around a little bit, but there's no running in my near future, and there's no going on my tiptoes in the near future. And boy, I'm hoping I can drive because I'm supposed to go to Steel City Comic-Con in Pittsburgh in a few weeks, and I have to drive. So, and it's my right foot, so I'm going to be gutting it out if I have to keep this thing out. I'm going to be taking it off for the drive.
Hopefully you'll be okay by then.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, this episode, we got so much to talk about. We've got Green Lantern issue 12 and 13 from the comic book side of things, but we're also going to cover all the Green Lantern news out of Comic-Con. And we're also going to talk about the Crisis on Infinite Earths, the final movie that came out. We're going to kind of talk about that as a whole. Not in great length, because I think between these three things, we've got a lot to talk about. And there's a lot of Green Lantern news on top of it. So for Green Lantern news, we're not going to talk about anything that came out at Comic-Con, because that's its own thing. But since the last time we recorded, we'd see Todd McFarlane came out with a Manhunter action figure, which is a hard to find one. I won't tell you how much I paid for it on eBay, but I had to have it. I love the little boot rockets, and he has a replaceable face, so you can have a damaged face on it. That came out, and then. You know me, how I am about board games. Board games and comics are my two big things. And there's a game called Marvel United that a company called Simon came out with. And they are now doing a campaign for DC Superheroes United. And it's I don't want to say it's a Kickstarter, but it's like a Kickstarter. And what they do is they're obviously going to make retail. This is an established publisher, so they're going to be doing retail. But what they do with these campaigns, they did the same thing with Deceased. They'll do a campaign and they'll offer a lot of additional content for fans, as long as the fans will financially support its creation. They are, as of the recording right now, it's the 29th in the evening. Right now, they are at how much money? Let's see. $2.8 million has come in on this campaign so far.
Not surprised. I mean, I know I'm going to be getting them. I'm
Oh,
going to
yeah.
get the starter, and then I'll probably get the Wonder Twins one, because I got to have the Wonder Twins, and I'll get that War of Light one that you sent me.
Yeah, there's so the core set has mainly Justice League with no Green Lantern in it whatsoever. But as they go, they create stretch goals. So when they hit certain dollar marks, they unlock more content. I think they're at 53 stretch goals right now, which the most of them are more characters you can play with. Some of them are cards that you can use, but they also have expansions that they come out with, and some of the crowdfunding expansions that are crowdfunded exclusives are really cool. And one of the things they came out with, they announced it last week, was a Green Lantern Corps character pack. So this isn't a game playing expansion. This is just a set of characters that you can play. And the way this game works is you're a team of 4 characters taking on a villain. And I don't get too much more descriptive than that because any superheroes can be thrown together with against any of the villains. So it's completely modular. And the Green Lantern Corps character pack has John Stewart, it has Salak, Kilowog, Jessica Cruz. Who am I missing? Who am I missing? I know I'm missing a couple. Salak.
Kyle Rayner? No Kyle Rayner, huh?
No Kyle Rayner in that pack. I seems to me like I'm missing someone because that's 5. I think there were 6. Jessica Cruz, John Stewart. Oh, Guy Gardner. Guy Gardner. And they're actually doing some clear green in it to be the constructs, which is really cool. That's a character pack, so it doesn't add any villains, but it gives you more characters you can play in the game.
Right.
So since then, everybody's like, well, where's Hal? Where's Sinestro? Where's Kyle? Where are all these big names? In the last few days, they come out with what's called a sidekicks pack. You can have sidekicks along with your characters. And in the sidekicks pack is Chip and Dexstar, complete with minis, and again with green clear parts and red clear parts. And then they've added to that kit, there's also Ace the Bat Hound and the Detective Chimp. But today, we're about 1 day away from the finality of this campaign. So by the time you're listening to this, the campaign's over, but there's usually a late pledging if you want to get in on it. But today they announced a War of Light pack, which looks really, really great. It has Hal, it has Black Hand, it has Atrocitus, Larfleeze, Sinestro, Saint Walker, Indigo One, Star Sapphire, and Kyle Rayner as the White Lantern in this bundle. And all the figures, and they all have different colored, clear parts to it to be the constructs and such. And they also have in the game, the villains have henchmen. And so the henchmen, there's some of the Yellow Lantern Corps, some of the Red Lantern Corps, some of the Orange Lantern Corps, not as minis. There's no minis involved there. Involved with this as well. And what's really cool is the heroes of this expansion is Hal and Kyle and Saint Walker. The villains are Atrocitus, Larfleeze, and Sinestro, and Black Hand. Then Indigo One and Star Sapphire can be played either way. So you can play them as heroes or you can make them the villains, which is really cool. And it's only a $40 add-on to the whole thing. A lot of great content. Go ahead.
Where did you say they were at 2.5?
2.8 million.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, it's still going up. I mean, it's still counting up.
Well, today they announced the all-in, and the all-in is basically you're paying one price and you're getting all the content, all the stretch goals, all the expansions. But if you do the all-in, it's not only a little bit cheaper, but you get even more. And so the figures are, maybe an inch or so. There's a 6 to 7 inch Starro.
Is that the Conqueror package?
Yeah, that's the Conqueror package. You get all the content cheaper than if you bought it individually, and then they throw in the big Starro and they throw in a Batmobile because there's gear and stuff in it. And what's really cool is in the Lantern expansions, there are what they call Ring Quest cards. So you can deputize any character. So let's say you're playing with the Flash. If the Flash accomplishes a specific set of objectives, he can get one of the power rings. So he could become Blue Lantern Flash and what have you. And it gives you more abilities. And there's cards for all the colors. There's a Justice League International team pack for Guy Gardner. That includes him. There's a Green Lantern Corps team pack. Rumor has it that one of the story packs campaign cards is going to be Blackest Night because there's one that has yet to be announced. Rumor has it that Necron might be one of the stretch goals, and this will be a story that you can play. I'm jazzed by it. I love the Marvel game. I have the base set and I have the Guardians of the Galaxy expansion. I didn't go all in on that one, but boy, what a fun game! It's cooperative, and you're teaming together. You have a specific set of objectives, and each villain plays differently, so they have different things you have to overcome to defeat them. But it's all cooperative. So let's say Phil, you and I and our wives are playing together, and it's your turn. You play your action card, and you have an action on that card that you can do, and you may have a bonus action that's specific to your character. Then when let's say it's my turn next, I play the action on my card, but I also get the action on your card. So there's that synergy of when I play a card, I not only need to think what's going to be good for me, but the next person after me is going to get what's on my card and on their card. So you're thinking about how do I as a team give the next player something that's going to help them, especially when it's getting tight near the end of the game. What I have in my hand may not help our overall team's goal, but it may give an action to the next person up. So it's just a heck of a fun game. It's completely modular. And what's really cool is that the Marvel United and the DC United games are interchangeable. You can mix them
Yeah.
together.
I was gonna say you
So
could probably play against each other and have
yeah,
a
I mean
good
it's all
old
cooperative,
throwdown.
but there's a co-op. It's all co-op, but there's some other stuff thrown in there where you can play in teams. The JSA setup has it so that you can play in two different teams and you actually fight each other while fighting, and rescuing people. It's just a lot of fun. I bought the Marvel one because my cousin and my best friend, he's a huge Captain America fan. He's as much of a Captain America fan as I'm a Hal fan. And so the idea that we're going to be able to team up finally in a board game, be able to team up together is really exciting. But
Yeah, that's fun. Because I'm gonna get the I think I'm gonna get the Super Friends one that has the Wonder Twins.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then I'm gonna get the War of Light and the Green Lantern Corps add-on. But I'm hoping so the singular characters, if you scroll down, they got a ton of them, like
Oh,
Mira's
the
on there.
stretch goals. You get them if you back the project.
Yeah, good. So, because I definitely want Cyborg Superman.
Oh yeah, it was just a cyborg. Superman's in there, Despero, Mongol. There's an assortment of good guys and bad guys, which gives you even more playability. Yeah, when they first announced it and they showed that you could get Zan and Jaina and Gleek, I was like, oh man, Phil's gonna love that.
Yeah, man. I'm
But
probably the only person out there that's on a podcast or even a fan that likes the Wonder Twins. And it's funny when you go to like cons and stuff, and I don't go to cons, but like when I go to comic book shows or the small cons in our area, okay, you guys got any Wonder Twin stuff? What?
right, what?
What do you mean what? Oh, who reads that? Who likes Wonder Twins? Man, come on. Whatever.
Who doesn't like the Wonder
I
Twins,
know.
right? But yeah, no, it's such a fun game. The game doesn't come out until next year. That's the worst part is having to wait.
Yeah.
But some people are leery of Kickstarters. I know I've been burned by them before, but when it's a company that's a reputable company, there's really like no fear of getting burned. So really looking forward to it. If you're into board gaming at all, definitely consider it. Like I said, by the time you listen to this episode, it's already going to be over with, but they usually do late pledges as well. It's on GameFound, and there's a link. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. But boy, what a game! When it comes out, I'm going to be doing some unboxing videos of some of this stuff, and maybe doing a playthrough or something on YouTube because it's so much fun. It's such a great game.
We ought to do a virtual play. Like we just
Yeah,
play each other on a virtual YouTube game or just like on here and
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah. We could zoom it and have it overhead camera and
right.
go that route. So Green Lantern on the panel. I have not seen any Green Lantern stuff other than the Green Lantern books. Have you, my friend?
No, and I mean just the occasional. Well, they're not even he's not even appearing in Absolute Power. Oh, wait a minute. I read Task Force 1 and 2, and then I read the Waller, the origin story.
Hal was in a panel of it in the
Yeah,
background.
that was
That was
it.
about it. When they were doing the whole thing about, they're using the fake media and the fake clips, and they had
Right.
footage of Hal fighting against people, hurting people. There's that. But that's been all that's in there so far. We know that Carol Ferris is coming up soon in the third issue, which
Hmm.
should be out. I think it might be out this week. I can't remember exactly when. But all right.
That's been about it, though. He's not appearing anywhere else, as far as I know.
There should have been an appearance, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. There should have been an appearance of somebody in another book that
Mm.
didn't happen despite being advertised as happening, which we'll talk
Mhm.
about.
Yeah.
But anyway, got to talk about all the San Diego stuff first. So before we get into doing the comics. So we'll be right back and we're going to jump right into San Diego Comic-Con news.
In brightest day or blackest night, there's only one place to listen to the best in Green Lantern. That's the podcast of OA.
All right, Green Lantern fans, we are back. San Diego Comic-Con just over this past weekend. A lot of really good stuff came out. I think one of the things that got people excited to a great extent was the new DC logo.
Yeah.
The classic bullet is back, even being used for DC Studios. Couldn't be happier with it. What about you, Phil?
It's a simple decision that makes the most perfect sense. And you kind of, yeah, you're sitting here and thinking to yourself, Yeah, we've been saying this for how long now? Why didn't you go back and do that to begin with?
Right, right.
Now, I do have this theory. So, Marvel's still up in the game every time they come up to the table, right? I mean, they always do. Now, granted, Marvel's been around and doing their movies and stuff a lot longer. I have a theory that if if Gunn and Associates are going to go a route, they're not going to go the route that Marvel's going to go. I have a feeling they're going to tap into that golden age stuff, and they're really, really going to explore the early age of superheroes and then move forward. You know what I mean? That's I kind of feel like that's where his I don't say the temperature, maybe the tone of his movies are going to be at in that golden age realm. I mean, if you can capture a golden age, fans love that stuff, I mean,
Yeah, golden age, early silver,
yeah, I mean that the symbol itself with the DC Comics was just a stroke of genius, and all it took was something so small to have a big impact.
I mean, you've got some detractors that are saying, look, they went with an old logo. Ha 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 ha. But that's such a beloved, iconic logo. I'll take that any day.
Right, right. Same here. That's a good move. Good move
Yeah.
for them, and I'm looking forward to what they're going to do. A lot's going to be on the table with Creature Commandos and which looks cool, and Superman, but I'm not altogether worried about it. I think it's going to be
No.
fine.
It may be a little disappointing that we didn't get any casting news for Lanterns or really anything related to the DC movies per se, other than the unveiling of the logo. But it's early on. I'm fine with that. In terms of comics, though, we've got this upcoming Absolute Universe that's going to be kicking off here this fall, and they announced Absolute Green Lantern.
Mhm.
And Absolute Green Lantern is going to have let's see, it's Al Ewing and Janoy Lindsay. And it looks like it's going to have Hal and John and Joe Mullane all together. And it's been described as a quote, complete reimagining of the Green Lantern property. And people are saying this is really great. Apparently, it was pitched 5 years ago. So I wonder if this was part of the 5G initiative.
Rebranding it to try to get some more readers.
Right, right.
Should have just kept it.
It's interesting that the artwork that they showed was really geared towards Joe. They
Yeah.
showed a couple panels, and Joe did not have the familiar costume that she's had, or the familiar uniform she's had in the main DC universe. But again, this isn't the main DC universe. They showed a couple of images. They showed one of Joe, and then they showed one that looked like it was Joe off in the distance with a lot of green power coming off, and some people in the foreground. And it almost looked like maybe that was Hal and John in the foreground. So there's a lot of speculation. Is Joe the main star and Hal and John supporting characters, or are they all three going to be the only lanterns in it, or at least in the beginning, the only lanterns in it, and it's going to go from there? We obviously don't know yet. There's been nothing beyond those images that have come out, but that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, it's another Lantern book.
Yeah. And
But
then
is this,
we go ahead.
I mean, is that going to I guess what I'm curious about, I guess it's going to encapsulate itself in a separate universe kind of thing. So it's an Elseworlds kind of story.
Yeah, it's going to be like Ultimates in
Oh,
Marvel.
gotcha.
It's going to be its own thing, which is funny because that was what the Earth One books were, and I would I would love it if they just picked up Green Lantern from Earth One and continued with it, because we know
Yeah,
that the creative team behind those two books had a third volume that they pitched to DC, and DC decided they didn't want to do any more of them. And I'm like, man, that would have been great because that already had
yeah,
kind of a launch pad that you could build
exactly.
off of. In terms of comics, the other thing was Justice League Unlimited, written by Mark Waid and Dan Moore is doing the art. Looks like Star Sapphire Carol Ferris is one of the Justice League. Kind of
Pretty cool.
cool.
I'm looking forward to that Unlimited. I mean, I like all the Justice League. Justice League International, I thought was really, really cool when that ran for a while back in the day. But I think the Unlimited version of this book, I think it's going to go well.
I kind of want to see. They haven't shown the entire roster, and it looks like there may be a rotating roster. I would love to see Hal and Carol together as like a Justice League power couple.
Yeah,
That would be pretty awesome because we've never had that before.
no.
The other thing they talked about was JSA. Jeff Lemire doing JSA, and it's going to have Alan Scott and Jade and oh geez, what's the son? What's Alan Scott's son's name? I can never
Oh,
remember his name. I'm glad it's not just me.
No, it ain't just you. And I read the book and it ain't just you.
Is it Nightshade?
I mean, that could be
No,
it.
I don't remember. Boy, I'm gonna have to look it up now because if I don't, it's gonna bug me all night.
Oh,
Um,
you said,
Obsidian. Jeez, what an idiot. Obsidian. It's Obsidian.
gotcha.
So Obsidian is in it as well. Um, obviously did stick out in our minds, but they're all three of them are going to be in it. That's kind of exciting. And then we got confirmation that there are big things planned for the Green Lantern universe. There's going to be a tag team with Philip Kennedy Johnson and Jeremy Adams in a special one shot. And apparently these events, and it looks like, you and I talked about a Green Lantern Civil War, and it looks very much like a Green Lantern Civil War that is going to shape the Green Lantern universe and have impact on it for the next year or so.
Well, I mean, the only thing that could have a long-standing effect on the Green Lantern Corps would be a massive civil war that divides the Corps itself. I mean,
Yeah.
or being disbanded. And to be quite honest with you, they've already been disbanded. They've been
Oh,
missing.
that again.
They've been missing for a while. I mean, the only thing we really haven't seen, and I don't even know if I can recollect anything that's been written in the past, is a Civil War event that took place in Geo.
Yeah, I mean, we had War of the Green Lanterns, but it wasn't
That
quite the
doesn't
same
count.
thing. Yeah.
That's not Civil War. That's stupid war.
Yeah. That was really not of their own volition, and you kind of wonder what this is going to be like. I don't know. I'm still banking that Kyle Rayner is going to take the source on Oa and he's going to reignite all the colors of the spectrum.
That you're still calling that, huh?
I'm still calling it, still banking on it. And I don't know what the big change is going to be, but I'm sure that some of it has to do with that power battery on Earth. And they're bringing John into the story from his run because we're one issue away from that being completed. So it's going to be dovetailing those pieces back in, and where it goes, nobody knows except for Jeremy Adams and Philip Kennedy Johnson and the editors.
Yep. Well, maybe with Kyle Rayner's character. So you think he's gonna ignite the lantern, right? He's gonna
Yep. Mm-hmm.
charge it. Okay. So if the lantern is in fact still on Earth, then maybe we have somebody by the name of Kilowog that's been guarding the lantern hidden.
Well, if you
Maybe his subconscious is speaking to Hal because, of course, Hal feels guilty about something that happened in the past, but maybe that's just a ploy.
if you look at the cover of the upcoming crossover special, that Civil Core special,
Hmm.
you kind of see the silhouette of Kilowog
There it
on the
is.
cover with Sinestro. So, you and we called his death, and you called him not being dead, and I agree with you. He's not dead. Just Hal thinks he's dead. He's a pawn of our evil villains here,
Yeah.
and I think we're gonna see something out of that. So I'm really excited for what's going to happen with the comics in the upcoming months. In terms of merchandise, McFarlane had a panel and they showed an effigy figure for those that like the effigy villain character, and they showed a Green Lantern with swappable heads, which we had some of that back in the Mattel line with some of the yellow lanterns. This is a Green Lantern with a look like an Arcus Chinook head, a Tomar Ray head, an Abin Sur head, and a Green Man head. But the package they showed only showed two heads. So I'm wondering if there's going to be two versions of the figure, one with two of the heads and one with the other two of the heads. I don't know.
Now, it kind of makes you wonder who decides what heads you want to throw in there. It's like, oh, I'm gonna get this
Right.
Green Lantern figure. Well, we can make like 4 removable heads here. What are you thinking as a head on here? Well, I don't know. Arcus Chummock comes to mind. Fun.
It's a great way though to get 4 different Green Lantern figures and have people buy 4 copies of the same figure in order to get 4 different ones, right? They also McFarlane is getting into the statue game, and they have a resin statue of John Stewart coming out
Oh, that's cool. I
with
think I did see that one.
I think it's Josie Campbell artwork is what it's based on, and it's like $250, which isn't for a statue. That's not bad at all. I don't remember the height of it, but that's pretty cool as well. So lots of good stuff.
It is. I mean, that's what Comic-Con does. It just gets the reveals and and then your pocketbook hurts for the next Comic-Con, until the next Comic-Con.
That's right. At least there wasn't a lot of exclusive stuff this year. I don't think there's anything Green Lantern related that was San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, which
No, I
ma
didn't hear anything.
made me feel good because I didn't have to feel I'd have to go out on eBay and start looking for stuff. Uh, but
Start bidding, have a bidding war with somebody.
that's the worst feeling too, especially
Oh,
when you
it
get
is.
sniped at the end or something,
Terrible. And
Although
people wait for that end.
it's different when you do it to somebody else, though, right?
I mean, it is, right? The feeling's a lot more euphoric, I guess you can say. Screw you, man, on the other end. Screw you, doppelganger 429. I got this.
So some good stuff for San Diego. So for those that got to go, I envy you because the pictures I saw, some of the cosplay. Oh man.
Yeah, every year, man, those cosplayers just outdo themselves. And I'm gonna hand hats off to the female cosplayers, because the girls know how to get it done. I mean, they know how to perform. They know how to cosplay it up. And I mean, the guys, don't get me wrong, they're good stuff out there, but nah, man, the females they got this cosplay down to an art.
There is a guy named Mark Justice that he's an actor and he's working on some kind of a Green Lantern fan film. I need to reach out to the guy, but he showed pictures of his outfit. He wore his fan film movie costume to San Diego. Man, it's like TV movie worthy.
I wonder what he made it out of.
I don't know. It's just amazing. I need to reach out to him and see if maybe he'll come out and talk about his fan film. But it looked absolutely stunning.
That'd be kind
So
of fun to talk to him about that. That'd be a good time.
yeah, that would. All right. That does it for San Diego. What do you want to talk about next? Do you want to talk about comics, or do you want to talk about Crisis on Infinite Earths next?
I don't know. I think we can. I mean, I don't know. There's kind of mixed on everybody's mixed on this crisis thing. I can't figure out where the gauge is at. Like,
I have to talk about it because there's something I have to get off my chest.
all right, well, let's just go ahead and dive right into it. Crisis
Okay.
on Infinite Earths, 1, 2,
All right.
and 3.
Well, let's not even take a break. Let's just jump into it.
Let's get it.
So
right.
I watched the third part.
I know what part you're talking about.
And I was so excited because we saw. Oh yeah, I was so excited because we saw Razor and Aya in the trailer. We saw Aya in the trailer, and we saw that Razor was going to be in it. The voice actor Jason Spizak was going to be in it, and I'm like, oh, great! Because my biggest criticism of part 1 and 2, and again, I look at everything through a Green Lantern lens, and totally torqued over how badly Hal was treated and how Sinestro was treated and how John was treated in Green Lantern Beware My Power. I thought that thing was the worst. And
I was trash.
It was absolute trash. And the thing was, it was written by Ernie Altbacher, who did some of the episodes on Green Lantern, the animated series, and was produced by Jim Krieg, who was the co-producer on Green Lantern, the animated series. And it was trash. They forced Kyle's origin on John. They gave him PTSD. They made Sinestro somebody whose only goal was causing chaos. I mean, like, they turned Sinestro into the Joker. They did Emerald Twilight without any kind of anything. They had a John Stewart who had just gotten the ring destroying Parallax all by himself.
Mhm.
It was just, I know I like to keep it family friendly, but it was a shit show. All right. So we get to that as the first part of the Tomorrowverse in terms of Green Lantern content, let alone how poorly they ended the last bunch of movies. So we get Crisis on Infinite Earths, and in the first episode, we get a flashback sequence where Hal turns down being on the Justice League and acts like a total jerk. And I'm like, okay, what the hell? Hoping that at some point we're going to see something else. It's the Tomorrowverse version of John, and we see Tomorrowverse version of John being the best man at Barry's wedding.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't how
right.
I've never seen that in any comic book that I've ever looked at.
And it got so convoluted, and then there's a point at which we're out in space, and we're talking about we're collecting the greatest heroes from across the multiverse, and there's like 2 Batmans and there's 2 Supermans. There's only the Tomorrowverse John Stewart. That's it. So you mean to tell me that there's nobody in the multiverse with a power ring. There's not a Kyle Rayner, not a Guy Gardner, not a Hal Jordan that's qualified or good enough to be in with this group of people. Now, Star Sapphire is there as a background character. So she's more qualified or a greater hero to be there than those guys are. I doubt it. So then we get to this third part. I'm like, okay, maybe there will be a redemption because there's Razor and Aya. And I'm like, oh, we're going to get to see the Green Lantern animated series kind of folded into this Crisis on Infinite Earths thing. So I'm watching it and I'm watching it. And I was like, we see Razor and Aya come back and they present John with a ring because John has lost his ring at some point during this story. And Razor utters the phrase to John Stewart to give this to John Stewart, the greatest Green Lantern. And I'm like, what in the absolute F are you doing? Because Razor, it just and it was okay seeing the 2D versions of those characters, had no problem with it. But then, if I wasn't torqued enough as it is, Jim Krieg says the following thing in an interview. Now, Jim, again, co-producer of Green Lantern the Animated Series, wrote this 3-part fiasco. And it says, if it was done as a series, I would have wanted the Filmation version of the characters. Thumbs up for that. And Young Justice and Justice League Action. Heck, I would have put Beware the Batman, but it would have been really jarring to suddenly cut to 3D CG version of these characters. The same with Hal and Green Lantern in the Animated Series, which of course is close to my heart. Just so fans know, because they think I hate Hal. I love Hal. There just was no room for Hal. I didn't want to bring Hal back unless he was going to do something incredibly badass. That would step on John Stewart a lot. And also we had Warlord and Adam Strange showing up. I'm like, okay, listen, you took 3D characters and you made them in 2D anyway. So that's bullshit. And you're worried about bringing Hal back because if he did something badass, it would make John Stewart look bad?
Yeah, but
Since when?
What drives that though, right? I mean, so you have that commentary, and I understand that if that's your stance as a writer or as you're producing this content, what drives that? I mean, if he's a Hal Jordan fan, you can't sit here and tell me and say to yourself, well, I don't want Hal Jordan to come back and trump John Stewart because John Stewart, I want him to be more popular, right? I mean, that kind of sounds like that's the cog. Right? We don't want to give fans Hal Jordan. We want to give fans more John Stewart because we want John Stewart to outshine the Hal Jordan fans. If that's the premise, fine. I'm not okay with it. I think it's crap, and I think it's crappy to do to people. I think it doesn't matter to me. I don't care about a popularity contest. I'm not here to win popularity contests. I'm here to read your damn books, and I'm here to read damn books with characters that we enjoy, not because you're choosing not to put them in there because some higher exec said, we can't put him in there because I don't want him to outshine John Stewart. So F that guy and F you too, right? I mean, that's just not how it should go.
Right. Well, here's the thing. If there was no room for Hal, then why did you throw him in there and make him look like an ass?
Right.
To begin with. And he could have done a 2D version. And why?
If there's no room for Hal, why throw all these other crappy characters in there?
Right. Wait,
Razor had nothing to do with Crisis.
There was room for Commandy.
Well, Razor wasn't even around during Crisis. What did you invent it?
Right. And it's like if he can't do something badass, well, why not? Why can't more than one character do something badass? I mean, the Flash did something badass. Did that make John Stewart look bad? No. John Stewart didn't do anything really all that great either. And then when they do a scene after they give him his ring, they go off and they're defending against the poorly created Anti-Monitor, one of the poorest versions of the Anti-Monitor I've ever seen. I mean,
goofy.
The Arrowverse got the Anti-Monitor better than this thing. The Green Lanterns are protecting the Earth, one of the Earths, from the Anti-Monitor, and there's a whole bunch of Green Lanterns. Not one of them is recognizable other than Razor and Aya and John. Not one of them. No Kyle, no Guy, no Aricia, no Salak, no Kilowog, no characters that are familiar. Now I realize most of them are dead because of what they did in Beware My Power. But I mean, come on, cut the bullshit.
Well, hold on. So how much thought does it take to say, okay, we're DC, we want you to have 4 Green Lanterns in there, but you got to have John Stewart and Razor and Aya. So just pick the other 2 or 3 and just throw them in there. Okay. So you're going to tell me that your mindset is to put in 3 misnamers or with no face, no identity whatsoever, but you couldn't just have turned a thumb to put a Kyle Rayner or a Salak or, for Christ's sake, Mogo or anything
Right.
that's
Right.
representing of a Green Lantern Corps character.
Right.
Besides the fact that you want to shine on Aya and Razor all the time, which I understand that they're popular, but I'll never understand why we have to be force fed these 2 characters, thinking that they're going to be the driving force for some kind of Green Lantern Corps moving forward. Everybody always gets on the Razor bandwagon, and it's like, he's cool.
Yeah.
What I mean,
I think
what
it
makes
was
him the coolest, right? I
I
mean,
think
why?
what it was trying to tie that knot back up of he did finally find Aya. You get that impression. But here's the
Yeah,
thing. They violated
tell a
their own
story with that.
they violated their own continuity. Okay. Because if you go back and look at Green Lantern, the animated series, in the final episodes, Hal and Guy are off in space fighting the anti-monitor version of Aya.
Mhm.
And Hal asks Guy in one of the episodes, who's protecting the Earth? And he says, some new guy, John Stewart. And then Hal says, the fake news guy. So John has already become a Green Lantern in that universe.
Right.
So the Razor and Aya that are showing up in this cannot be from the same universe as Green Lantern, the animated series.
No, they wouldn't be.
They couldn't. So
Right.
it's not even the Razor and Aya. So Razor really didn't find Aya, and this is just another variation of it. And you couldn't have shown, like they showed the Super Friends Earth get destroyed. We saw the Timverse get destroyed because we saw that universe's John Stewart and Hawkgirl embrace as the universe is ending. You couldn't have spent 5 seconds showing the Green Lantern the animated series universe, even if it was in 2D.
I will say this, that was a cool sequence, the way they
Oh
went
yeah,
through the different worlds and the
I'm
different
not knocking
creators.
it. I'm
Yeah.
not knocking it,
But you're
but
right. I see your point. Why? And you not only that, you got a guy that wrote the the damn series
he
doing it,
he co-produced the whole series, and
which is very dear to his heart, but he didn't think to put that in there.
apparently, um, it totally irked me. Totally, I'm like I take the Tomorrowverse, chuck it in the bin. It was crap. There were a few movies I liked that weren't part of the continuity. That were okay, but F it. I had a great deal of respect for Jim Krieg, but I no longer have a great deal of respect for Jim Krieg. This was just ridiculous. I mean, I had him on the show a couple times, interviewed him. Seemed like a great guy. I don't understand the decision making. And then this quote is so full of crap that it's not even funny. Anyway, I feel better now.
I figured you would. So
This is therapy.
So they had the three crises, right? And of course, you remember Crisis. I remember Crisis.
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
every diehard fan should remember Crisis. My fault in having something like this is, okay, you got 3 parts. I don't care about that. That doesn't so much concern me.
No.
What concerns me is, why is it so hard for people to say true to source material? I mean, is it
Right?
that effing hard? I mean,
Right.
do you read a book and then sit there and you sit in a room full of a bunch of other a-holes and say to yourself, well, you know what, man? I don't like this one part here where such and such is doing this. So let's just change it to having another guy do this.
It's loosely based on Crisis on Infinite Earths, but it was not an adaptation
Well,
of
that's what
Crisis
I
on Infinite
mean.
Earths.
You can't tag it as such and then change the whole entire source material and think that fans are going to sit there and go, hold on a second, that didn't
Oh,
happen like that.
and before anybody says anything, yes, I know Hal Jordan was not part of Crisis on Infinite Earths until the very end. He wasn't part of it. I totally get it. But if you're going to do this, do it right. Come on, man.
And
Don't
do it your way.
do it my way. Jim, you should have called me. I'd have helped you.
It was okay. I liked it. I mean, part 1 was I didn't like part 2 as much as part 1, but I liked part 3 better than the other 2.
The whole thing of it being Barry's fault.
Yeah, that was a little much for me.
I mean, come on.
Like, well, just don't sling that on his shoulders, man.
Didn't we already do Flashpoint? I mean, come on, man.
God.
Come up with something original. Anyway, we're gonna come back in a couple minutes. I've gotta get my blood pressure back down, and then we'll talk some Green Lantern comics.
This is Razor, and you are listening to the blog of Oa. You need to keep listening, otherwise I will track you down with all of my skill, and you will feel my wrath.
All right. So Phil's talked me off the ledge. We're going to talk about some comics now. Let's end things on a good note, man. So we're going to talk about Green Lantern 12 and 13. And issue 12 and 13, both I thought were really good issues. It's interesting. We talk about how Green Lantern and being sucked into the events. One of the things I heard out of San Diego Comic-Con was they were talking about absolute power, and apparently Jeremy Adams volunteered to put Green Lantern in it. And yeah, which I thought, well, that's interesting. This isn't a case of editorial saying, hey, we want you to do a tie-in thing. He must have looked at the story and said, hey, I can weave this in and, write a little bit on this and include Green Lantern in the event, which I think is a cool thing. We start out with them on Oa, and we've got our rebel resistance Green Lanterns getting caught. And as they're going after Kyle kind of blows up. He's having kind of an emotional spectrum outburst of sorts, and takes all of them out, which I thought was kind of interesting. And we don't know exactly what's going on with Kyle, but you and I have had our theories that this whole thing going on with the source of all of these different things going on, that Theros and what he's been doing is in destroying the central power batteries is impacting Kyle because of his connection to the emotional spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I both think he's going to reignite all those lanterns by the time this is all said and done. But we cut back over to Theros' chambers, and Hal and Joe and Simon Baz, they kind of were trying to confront Theros when we left them last, and all hell's broken loose, and it's basically them versus the Ring Hunters. Loved the action scene, loved the fight scene. Thought it was a little stupid to see Simon Baz making the guns, but
ping, 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 ping.
Yeah, whatever. But it isn't long before Simon and Joe fall to the Lantern Hunters, the Ring Hunters.
Mm-hmm.
Hal, because his ring is different, he manages to escape, leaves them behind, gets in orbit, and then he's confronted again. And they really go after Hal. And Hal is on his last legs. And who shows up but Carol Ferris?
And what a cool scene. Let him go now. That's pretty cool.
Not a surprise, but boy, was it fun to see, especially you turn that and you get that full page spread of Carol Ferris saying, let him go now. What an awesome moment. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. And they're, of course, are shocked because they destroyed the Zamaron power battery. So she's the last Star Sapphire. They don't know what's going on with Hal and his ring because the energy doesn't sound or act like the energy coming out of the source. So his ring is different as well. She smashes them with a car, which I thought was great. She gets Hal, who's nearly unconscious. And I love the part before they get to the reveal of her, when Hal is there and he's like punch drunk and he goes, you guys are so in for it. Just loved it. And she, of course, takes him and leaves. And after that, we get Theros having a conversation with the people who failed the mission. We get Carol on the ground, and she's in tears, but she's like, we're okay now. And we don't know what's happened, but obviously you can connect the dots. She got cold feet in Las Vegas. That Star Sapphire ring showed up. She's like, okay, Hal's got to be in trouble. And off she goes, and she left Nathan at the altar.
But we see Nathan again soon.
We see him again soon. Theros has a conversation with Amanda Waller, which I loved the interaction between the two of them, and kind of the one-upsmanship, the head games.
I mean, Amanda Waller, for she's been around like a long time now. And the funny thing about Amanda Waller, what I think is really hilarious, is her power has risen since she's been around. And nobody really takes notice of it, right? It's like one of those things where it's like she's just in the background, but she's got her ties into everything, especially this absolute power. And
as we've seen in the Absolute Power book, she's come out and she usually is one of those characters who operates in the shadows. She's right out there. She was on TV, talking about what's going on. She's emerged from the shadows in this. And here's a situation where Theros and her, their goals, their short-term goals, are aligned with each other. Theros needs Hal off the table because his ring being different and Hal being Hal, he wants nothing to do with it. And Amanda Waller doesn't want Hal on Earth because that's going to upset her plans as well. So we cut back to Hal, and they're in his trailer, and the scene between him and Carol, it's only a panel, or not a panel, but a page.
Mhm.
But Adams did such a great job of capturing the essence of that relationship and what's wrong. And his dialogue for Carol is spot on. It's what we've always said is she wants stable, but that's not sexy enough for her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She wants the unstable part. And it's always that case of trying to change your partner to fit what you think you need, but in doing so, you're getting rid of the things that drew you to that person in the first place. And this really encapsulates it. And just as Hal is about to say the three little words, what happens? They
Killer
come up.
shark.
Yep.
Killer shark arrives.
They show up and they snatch him. I was like, man, what a great issue in terms of pushing the story along, using absolute power as a plot device, but yet still he's positioned Carol and Hal in the exact right place. This is where they needed to get to. Everything that he has done in this series has led up to this. And if you think about it, this is the end of the first year. This is issue 12. It sets them in a position where we don't know exactly where it's going to go yet. You can kind of think about where it's going to go, but it's really a good bookend.
Mhm. I agree.
I loved it. The back end feature is Guy Gardner, and I love the whole thing that starts out with Guy Gardner being kind of a UPS guy inside the bottle that they're stuck on, and there's this cockamamie escape plan, and they get themselves. Long story short, they get themselves out of it, and it ends with this says I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Is it Zarnian? I think I say Zarnian, and Guy falling through the sky, and it says that he's going to be in a big group scene. Check out Action Comics 1064. So I flipped through Action Comics 1064. He's not in there. I
Was
looked
he at
through.
the end?
No, he wasn't even in it. It says he's in a group scene, and in that issue, it's part of the whole House of Brainiac storyline. There's a whole scene with Zarnians falling from the sky, but he's not in there. He's not in any of the fight scenes or anything that takes place the entire issue. And this was like a crossover between Action Comics and Superman. I looked through all 6 parts. There's no Guy Gardner to be found. Now, if somebody found him somewhere, please let us know. But I looked through all 6 issues and could not find anything looking like Guy Gardner. Not a thing. I'm like, this whole thing was to tie in. What was the point if you're not going to do that? If
Right.
you're not going to follow through. So totally disappointed there. Fun little set of pages. It was humorous and fun and a nice little adventure. But I'll be honest, I would rather have just had more of the main course.
Yeah. I mean, I like a Lobo. I'm good for a Lobo guy kind of. I mean, I'm good for a Lobo guy or Kilo. kind of
Yeah.
book,
Oh,
man. I mean, that
that
would
would
be a
be
fun book. But
that'd be like the bachelor party. The 3 of them. Just the 3 of them in a bar. I mean, I will say one thing that did take place in those books was that the Warriors Bar was involved. Lobo is in Warriors Bar
oh, that's
in
cool.
Coast City. That was kind of cool. But Guy Gardner was not there in any of the stuff, which I was like, why are you teasing this if you don't follow through? Did editorial not talk to each other? I mean, come on. And this issue also had the MD Bright commemorative page in the back, remembering an icon, which I thought was great. MD Bright is one of the best artists to ever work on Green Lantern, so I was really pleased to see them giving him a little bit of a tribute.
That's a cool photo too.
Yeah. That was issue 12. Now issue 13. Love the Jose Luis Garcia Lopez flashback cover with all the
Oh,
the
Oh, that
artwork.
is cool. Yeah.
They did that for a number of books that month. They did a Shazam one, a Batman one, Superman, Green Arrow, Wonder Woman, and Flash, which I thought was really cool. But this one is absolutely an absolute power tie-in. Love this issue as well. Love the fact that Hal is captured, and this whole torture scene. I was like, oh, this is so great that Hal is here and he's in all this pain and he's being taunted by Amanda Waller and they can't break him.
Right.
You know, the whole thing when she says, I knew you were going to take the hard road no matter what. And he spits blood out and says, it's more scenic. I was like, oh, that's so Hal right there. So Hal. Love it. Loved it. But she can't get anything out of him. The shark can't get anything out of him. He even taunts the shark. I just perfect. Absolutely loved it. This whole issue was great. Interesting that we got Fernando Pasarin on art instead of Zermanico in this one.
The art was good though. I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it. Well, Fernando Pasarin, he did some work during the Jeff Johns run, so that was kind of cool. The shark threw me off though, because you've got the shark that we saw in the Jeff Johns run. We saw, the original shark, and then there's King Shark, and this guy looks like King Shark, but it's not King Shark.
The killer shark?
It's the regular shark.
Oh, okay.
Not the shark, but the shark.
We'll call him Clark the shark.
Clark the shark. Remember the old shark that looked very humanoid?
Yeah.
It's that shark.
That was the one where we did the back issues reading with Jeff Johns.
Yeah,
remember?
yeah.
Cool, yeah. Right.
Not the shark, but the shark.
The shark.
Sorry, I'm getting a little goofy now. It's coming off of that last conversation, I'm sure. But Jessica Cruz, she's in her double agent role, trying to figure out what's going on. She goes and touches base with Salak and Razor and Kyle and 2-6, who had gotten away. And she's, of course, trying to find out what's going on. Says that, Joe and Baz are locked up in the science cells. It's dangerous. We got to be careful. And Kyle then says, no, he just needs to control the spectrum. And you see Kyle, and he's like phasing all these different colors. And he says, you control the emotional spectrum, you control the universe. Again, there's something big coming for Kyle.
Yeah, he's just kind of just sitting there like a battery or something,
Yeah, it's almost like he can't control it. He doesn't have the mastery, but it's definitely impacting him in some way.
What happens if Kyle takes a step into the next universe and he dies off and he becomes the embodiment of all the emotional spectrum?
I think he goes into the source and becomes the White Lantern again.
Okay, that's
and brings.
I like mine dying off better, but I don't think
there's a prophecy. He's going to bring balance to the Force. I mean, balance to the emotional spectrum. And then we touch base with. I have totally lost it tonight. I totally lost it.
That's a good one.
I hope at least it's entertaining, if not turning people off completely. And we touch base with Sinestro, and Sinestro's got the rage that's replaced the fear. And I'm at first not sure. I wasn't sure if I liked the idea of Sinestro being a Red Lantern, but I'm kind of digging it.
How'd he get it so fast? He flew off of Earth, and then all of a sudden he's got the Rage Lantern.
Yeah, he got the Rage Lantern. It came to him, and it's interesting. Because Yzmal has been destroyed as well, and so he's like the last Red Lantern. But it's so different because we're so used to Sinestro being this cunning strategist, and you can't be that and be a Red Lantern. So will he be able to master his rage and keep it under control and be able to use it when he needs to, but not lose himself to it? The whole thing about the Jeff Johns era, he talked about the further you are away from the center of the emotional spectrum, the more the emotion controls you, then you control the emotion. And Red is on the outskirts. So I'm interested to see what happens, because Sinestro fully enraged. I mean, you see him when he flies away, and it connects to Sinister Sons #6 and Kneel Before Zod #7. From my understanding, there really wasn't much of anything near either.
Nope, there wasn't. I can't contest to Kneel Before Zod #7. I was a little sad too, because I expected him to appear.
Yeah. Yep.
And I hate when they do that. I mean, it's cool. And I understand why writers do that, but man, it's just like, don't get our hopes up. And I'm gonna get your book.
If you're not going to pay off on the tease, don't tease.
Yeah, just why bother? There's no point in it.
No. And we touch in with some of the other characters. We see Jade and Alan and Obsidian. I got it right.
Obsidian. Yeah. And
dealing with some of the
Hawkman's there.
Amazos. Yep, dealing with some of the Amazo stuff. It's not going well. That's for sure. And I think this is the whole point of this is just to show you what's going on with those guys. But then we come back to Nathan Allen Broom, and he's a sad man. We find out that go ahead.
I gotta say, man, this guy's taking it a little too hard. I mean,
He's taking it a lot hard.
how long? I wonder how long him and Carol were together.
Right.
Now, granted, Carol is a good looking woman. And I'm not trying to like say she's not worth it, but dude, he's looking rough.
He is really looking rough, and you kind of see, they try to make him a very sympathetic character. Jeremy Adams is talking about he's always done the right thing. He's always been the good guy, and here's a case where the good guys finish last. And then the ring, which is funny when he was in the whole chapel of Krypton, and he was figuring out those different rings. The ring suddenly morphs, and he becomes the Sorrow Lantern out of nowhere. Who knows where this is coming from? I don't know whether Jeremy Adams listens to the show or not. I mean, he's kind of hinted that he listens to us. He's probably not going to be too happy with the fact that I went off on Jim Krieg, but Jeremy, if you're listening, just so you know, we've already laid claim to Seafoam Lanterns. That's anxiety. Burnt Sienna is indifference, and Periwinkle's confusion. So we haven't trademarked them. Feel free to use them, but we did not come up with the Sorrow, so that's good. That's good. We got another one for the Spectrum.
The free one is the Brown Lantern, and feel free to, insert whatever name you want to put on that one. Yeah, descriptor, go ahead.
But yeah, back when we were doing the Jeff Johns run stuff, Bill and I had an ongoing thing about all the different colors and when is it going to end? And we started making fun of things. And when Seafoam was the first one he came up with, and we actually, one of our listeners made us T-shirts with a Seafoam Lantern logo that he created.
That was cool.
And we posed with it, and we made up an oath. The oath for the Seafoam Lantern Corps was knees that tremble, hands that shake. From your phobias, your mind might break. Don't you worry, never fear. The Seafoam Lanterns will soon be here. Had a lot of fun with it.
So the question on the Sorrow guy is he? I guess it's gray. Is it a gray?
It looks like gray. Yeah, I want to say gray.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, I'm going with gray. I guess you could say silver, but I want to say it's more grayish.
All right, I got it. Okay.
But yeah, so where does the energy come from this, and what does it do? We don't have any clue yet. I'm sure we're going to find out. I want to know though, is he going to be going after Hal or Carol or both?
Well, I think the prerequisite for a Sorrow ring is you have to get dumped hard.
Then I might be the herald for the Sorrow Lanterns.
You have to cancel Green Lantern the animated series again. There would be another sorrowful moment, right? End Crisis on a positive note. Oh wait, you guys can't do that, so that's another sorrowful moment.
It's interesting. It caught me completely by surprise. Didn't see it coming. I want to see more about it. I mean, some people have been making fun of it, and I get it because we've got so many different colors. I mean, we've got gold now and ultraviolet, and where does it end? I mean, periwinkle.
I want to see this sad sack get together with Black Hand and see what happens.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I just want to know more about it. It's interesting enough. Yeah, this is Sorrow Man. Anyway, we get more about Theros, and he's lost it. He's absolutely lost it.
It looks like Sinestro a little bit in that one part.
A little bit. I loved seeing Hal headbutt the shark. I mean,
yeah.
Some people were making fun of the fact that Jon Stewart's doing all these great things and Hal headbutts a shark, but it takes a lot of intestinal fortitude to headbutt a shark, especially when you're under intense pain and your hands are basically stuck. All you've got is your head to work with.
Well, and for the record, we don't know how long he was interrogated, so
right.
Be fair.
And hey, a lot of people think that Hal just does things reactively. He fights physically and whatnot. But here's a case where he used his head. I don't know what I put in my
You're
soda
on
tonight.
tonight.
I'm on something, man. I don't know. But he gets with, and just the sheer force of will to break free from his boundaries, to deal with the pain of doing it and pulling it loose and getting free, and then putting the shark in it, which I thought was kind of cool. But then he runs down the hall and finds the mother lode. I mean, he finds his ring, but then he finds the mother lode, the whole shipload of weapons.
Well, that's Harley's hammer.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff in there.
I don't know what this other thing is. What are those? What's that helmet there on the bottom right?
I'm not sure what that one is. I saw some boomerangs. It looks like a bunch of different like wands,
Is
and
that
maybe it's that
one?
Mirror Master's mirror, one of their mirrors. I don't know.
Oh, that could be it. That one might be the Phantom machine.
Oh
With
yeah, it could be.
Superman, I guess, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. But he's found the mother lode. So I want to see where that's going to go, obviously. And then Mark Guggenheim, who's done comics and stuff, he also co-wrote the first draft of the Green Lantern movie script, writes the story on Theros. And man, I think Theros is insane and sane at the same time. Like you see him here going after somebody who he thinks killed his father. And
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, this whole story, he gets treated really badly as a young person, and he learns from it, and it makes him as ruthless as he is. And he doesn't have the physical prowess to be that kind of a despot, but he can use influence and his mental prowess to manipulate things. And being a Durlan doesn't hurt to get himself where he's going to be. And this whole thing with his father and the Durlan that he's going after, I got to ask you, Phil, do you think that the guy he got at the end is actually the guy who killed his dad?
No, because I would assume that at some point that's probably his story is going to flesh out within the Green Lantern series, especially if you're doing a backup story on a little bit of his history, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know if that knife is the same knife, or does he see the knife and imagine in his head it's the same knife, or has he had that knife for years and every so often he has to kill somebody with it just because he wants that pursuit of that person. He's gone over the edge. I don't know. It could be any of the three, but I think it gives him a completely different edge than what we saw before.
Yeah. A different type of Tharos too.
Yeah, I mean,
A meaner one.
I just look at him different. Yeah, he's dare I say more cutthroat than what we've seen in the past. I'm not sure if he's mentally stable. That's what I keep looking at it is I read this guy's like off his nut, that he's imagining these other beings are the person that killed his dad because he's a Durlan. He could be anybody, so everybody is his father's murderer.
As Lantern de Proba. Uh, how
Never
big
seen him
the-
before.
Yeah, first time I've heard of that lantern.
Yeah, kind of cool looking.
Yeah, it's definitely different. Is it like a long snake with a? It looks like a Medfill head on the. Is that the? Is that
Yeah,
it?
like his tail. Yeah,
Yeah,
and his ring is on his tail.
that's cool. All right.
It's cool. So I'm excited to see where we're going from here because we're only a couple issues from the Civil Core book. So we're only talking one or two more issues of the main series before we get this directional change.
How long is Adams on this title? I guess.
I don't know. He's still on it. He's
Right. He didn't say really. He didn't verify with us when he was not going to be on it anymore.
no, and all the announcements they didn't announce him as not being on it. In fact, I think when they talked about the All In initiative, they implied he was going to be on it.
Cool. Well, I hope he
So
stays on it for a good couple of years. I think it'd be nice.
I hope so too. I really am enjoying what he's been doing with the series. And
I
these
would
last two
imagine.
issues were awesome.
I would imagine that he's probably close to meeting his requirements writing Lantern by now. If we're on 13, I mean,
Mhm.
he's probably written the next 4 or 5 by now.
Yeah, I gotta imagine. Yeah, I gotta imagine he's got a few more of them already done.
Yeah.
I would hope he sticks around for a while longer. I want to see him stick around. I can't think of the stable of writers there are anybody else I'd want writing it. And considering we're just getting ready to go into this all in era, and they're saying he's writing the book, I can't imagine they're going to change it anytime soon because this would have been the time to transition, right?
Yeah, it would have been starting off somebody new with all in. So
Yeah. So I think he's in for the duration, and I, for one, could not be happier.
same, same.
All right. Well, folks, we have some listener feedback. Let's get to that right after this quick break, and we will see what you guys have to say.
What up, dweebs? This is Guy Gardner. You're listening to the podcast of OA.
Hello, Green Lanterns and fellow owns. Our first message is from Scott. Transmitting in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, Myron. On the next show, could you please tell us a few soundtracks that you listen to when you read your comics? I usually put on the Crisis on Infinite Earths original television soundtrack, but I'm looking for other suggestions. Thanks.
Hey, Scott, thanks so much for reaching out. Yes, I do love to listen to movie scores. Not so much soundtracks, but scores. I know there's somewhat of a difference. When I read my comics, I enjoy putting on a pair of headphones, especially noise canceling headphones, where I can kind of shut the world off around me and really dive in. And when I'm reading Green Lantern books, I have a comics reading playlist, and on it are mainly the score to First Flight, Green Lantern First Flight. Both scores for Green Lantern the Animated Series Volume 1 and 2. I also listened to, and included in that is some of the tracks from the Man of Steel soundtrack, and the Last Starfighter soundtrack, which is a movie that's near and dear to my heart. I love when the main theme for Last Starfighter comes up, and it's this really triumphant thing, and it's something really noble that's going on in space. It just
It's a heck of a fanfare. It really
yeah,
is.
exactly. And then I've got the score for the 2011 movie, but not the score that was released. Somebody got me copies of a 2-disc version of the score, much more musical cues from the Green Lantern movie. That was apparently it was never released, and somehow they got it and they gave me a copy, and that I get added to it. And then there's a movie. There's also a few tracks from Top Gun Maverick I added into that too. But then there was a movie I backed on Kickstarter called In Search of Tomorrow. It's like a 4-hour documentary on sci-fi films from the 80s. And in backing it, they sent you the soundtrack score from the movie, and it's all orchestra music. And there's some really good tracks in that because it's all based on sci-fi. And so those things all get put together into one big playlist, and then I randomize it. And sometimes the music cues and the fanfares don't line up with what's going on in the books, but when they do, it adds a whole nother experience, and it has a whole nother level to it. Sometimes if I'm reading horror books, I do the same thing, and I have some tracks from Midnight Syndicate is a duo that does a lot of horror-based orchestral type music. And I listen to a lot of their stuff when I'm reading horror books. So those are the two things I do, but I have that eclectic list of different comic book movies, and then Last Starfighter and In Search of Tomorrow. That's my general playlist that I go through. Like I said, sometimes it doesn't work out right. Like sometimes you're in a moment and the musical cues don't line up, but when it does, it just adds so much more to the experience. I don't know when I started doing that, but I've been doing it on a regular basis. I think a lot of it is when my wife sees the headphones on, she doesn't interrupt me. So, because I'm one of those people when I'm reading, I can't handle being interrupted because I'm like trying to immerse myself in this world. And I'm not just reading a magazine article. It's completely different, and I hate being interrupted. So I started listening to music as a background.
I'm the same way. Clark, God love him. I'm involved in this really big book about the Middle Ages, and I'm just like a couple hundred pages in. It's like 900 pages or something like that. And I'm just so into it. And hey, Daddy, hey, Daddy, hey, Daddy, hey, Daddy. What the F do you want? I'm right here, dude. You're not saying Daddy 5 times. So usually I kind of, I've been staying up later and redoing my reading, and then getting up early before he gets up and my wife gets up to do my readings. Get it out of the way.
Like I can't listen to music with lyrics because I get too pulled into the music.
Me
It
too.
pulls me away. But orchestra music scores, it just to me adds another layer to the comic book reading experience, especially when it lines up right.
Agreed. You're gonna have to upload that double disc GL 2011 to our OneDrive, man. Our
Yeah,
Google Drive.
I'll have to do something. Thanks for saying that out loud in public in a place where Warner Brothers music can hear,
True. Never mind. I'll find it.
Did I say I had that? I've heard
You did-
about it.
you heard about it. I heard something about it myself.
All right, so thank you, Scott. I hope that gives you some inspiration. You mentioned that you use the Crisis at Infinite Earths original TV soundtrack, which I never even thought about that. I didn't even know it existed. I'll have to check that one out.
I didn't even know it existed either. I wonder
Yeah.
which one that would be.
I'm assuming it's the whole Arrowverse crossover, some music from that, and that would have some suitable cues, I'm sure.
Yeah, Arrowverse had some cool. It had some cool music in it.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool.
All right, Power Ring, why don't you give us the next message?
Our next message is from Boris, who has some concerns about Green Lantern 2/6. Transmitting in 3, 2, 1.
Hi guys, I recently listened to your episode interviewing Jeremy Adams while driving home from work. You sort of brought me up telling him 2/6 was one of your listeners' favorite lantern. That just made me smile for the rest of the drive home. Slightly disappointed he didn't mention that I'd also tweeted him with my crazy 2/6 obsession. I'm absolutely loving how much page space my girl is getting. She's also showing to be a more valuable member of the crops, no longer the timid rookie, and now she's showing off her maths tactical skills with Salak. I'm still fearful Adams is about to kill her off as a background lantern, never to be seen again.
Hey, Boris. Good to hear from you. So, I don't think you'd have to be worried about Adams killing off 2/6. And I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Adams would do that to that kind of character. I mean, I don't know. I mean, she's making an impression. I mean, so for lack of a better word, you can't really justify killing off a character like that when I mean, she's one of the prime figures that I think is taking place with the Resistance. So I don't feel like she'd be a character that would be killed off so easily, willy-nilly, like the other ones.
If you notice so far throughout the Adams run, other than Kilowog, nobody has died, and Kilowog, I'm sure, is not really dead.
Right.
So I think Adams is not the kind of person that's going to break one of the toys in the toy box. He might put them in danger and do things like that, but I don't think that'll be the case. But it was interesting because when we talked to Jeremy Adams, he had mentioned that online he was asking people, what are your favorite lanterns you want to see? So this is the kind of guy he is he wants to incorporate some of the fan favorites. So I'm glad 2/6 is there because she was one of my favorite characters of that era of the Green Lantern Corps. So I'm excited to see her there, but I don't think she's going anywhere. I think it's great that she's getting some attention and she's being used. And actually has speaking lines and she isn't relegated to be a background character.
No kidding. Mad props to you, Boris. We don't get that a lot with some of these offshoot lanterns, you know?
Yeah, it's great, because usually it's Kilowog and Salak and the usual suspects. So I loved the fact that the Adams kind of dug a little deeper.
Yep. Agreed.
All right, well, that's it for the listener feedback. Power Ring, why don't you tell people how they can be a part of the show, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap things up.
You can become a part of the show by leaving a message up to 1 minute long on our voicemail line. Call us at 406 POD of OA. That's 406-763-6362. You can also email us at podcast@blogofoa.com. We'd love to hear from you.
All right, fellow Owens, welcome back. Well, I mean, this has been a slapstick happy episode, that's for sure.
Yeah, at least one of us is saying it's this guy.
Good stuff though. I will say that in light of some of the news with Comic-Con, I think the GL universe is moving in a good direction. I know it's there. I know there's stuff to come, and I know they always tell you that big stuff's coming, big stuff's coming. But you can tell. I mean, you get that kind of feeling with reading the Green Lantern books. You can tell that this is all coming to a head, and it's going to go someplace cool. And I hope it leads to a big, gigantic civil war between all of them. It's going to be awesome, and I want to see some cool spread, just 2-page layouts of massive crap going down.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been optimistic since the Adams run started. It dipped a little bit in quality for me in one spot, but I'm very excited about where it is and where it's going. And sure, I'm cautiously optimistic about some things. I'm not sure what I think about the absolute Green Lantern book, but I won't know more until I actually have it in my hands and can read it. Right
Right.
now everything's all conjecture. Plus there's also the Green Lantern Dark. I forgot about that. The Green Lantern Dark miniseries comes out in October.
That's true too. There's a lot of
So
good stuff. So
I mean, it's
at least we're getting fed.
yeah, exactly. I'm not sure how interested I am in it, but I'm going to check it out and we'll see if I stick through all 6 issues. But it looks interesting.
And we're also going to be doing an episode with Tim Sheridan soon,
Yes.
since he closed out the Alan Scott series, and I'd like to get his take on it, since he's done writing that.
Yeah, we got to do that. We got to do Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. And then we've got, I think, 2
War Journal
issues of
11.
War Journal 11. And then 12 will be coming up soon.
Mhm.
And I think we're getting close to Green Lantern number 14 is coming up soon too. So it's an embarrassment of riches. It's great to have all this content. I think GL June and the interview with Jeremy Adams kind of threw us off kilter, and then having some things in the real world getting involved and slowing us down a little bit, but we will catch up with it all.
We always get back on track. So
Yep. And as always, we appreciate you guys for sticking around and listening to us or watching us or whichever. We are glad to have you and glad to have you include us in your fan experience. That's important to me. That's why we started doing this when we did.
and it's fun. We get to talk to you guys, and it's kind of, I don't know. I always think about other people listening to us, listening to me. I mean, you've been doing this a little bit longer than I have, and then I jumped on, and I didn't really give it much thought when I first started doing this with you about, I'm just doing a podcast, stuff like that. It wasn't until like a couple, maybe 3 years, I kept thinking to myself, man, I wonder who's out there listening to my voice. I wonder who's out there looking at my stupid face. It's like, I mean, I've listened to myself a couple times on a podcast. I don't like to do a listen back through
Yeah.
when it's my voice, because sometimes to me it sounds off, and I feel like it puts okay, well, next episode I'm gonna have to do something differently. And I don't like to change. It's a podcast. I'm gonna do what I do, right? But then I just kept thinking to myself, I wouldn't want to listen to me for an hour. There's no way. Why does my wife listen to me for an hour? Why does she listen to me at all? My son, he listens to me sometimes.
It's interesting because I used to do a lot of prep work for the episodes, especially during the Jeff Johns Day era, because there's a lot of speculation about what was going on, and I would do a lot of prep work. And Bill and I, when we started it, he was newer to the Green Lantern franchise than I was, and there were so many people that were new to the Green Lantern franchise that were listening to the show that he was the voice of the reader. And you and I come at it from a different perspective because you're well versed in comics and I'm well versed in comics, so it's a different kind of conversation. But I hope for people that are new to it, it helps them understand what's going on in the universe and maybe some of the history. And I think Adams has done a really good job of making sure that you don't need to be a Green Lantern expert to enjoy the book, which I think is an important thing. But yeah, I don't script it as any much because at all, I don't do a lot of pre-writing ahead of time. I want it to be more of an authentic, natural conversation. I mean, you and I didn't talk about what we were going to say tonight. It's all off the cuff. It's all, I look at it as the show has gone from being that new reader, old reader kind of thing to you're listening to two friends talk about their comics and stuff in a comic shop, and you're in on the conversation.
Right. That's kind of that's kind of how my wife always she explains it to people that ask, oh, your husband's on a podcast? Which one? And it's funny because podcasting's so popular, right? I mean, it's one of those popular niche things that are going on right now, especially the true crime stuff, right?
Yeah.
So when you tell people and they talk about podcasts and everything like that, my wife and I'm never forthcoming with it and there's a reason why, right? My wife will be like, oh, well, my husband does a podcast. I'm like, oh, what's your podcast on? It's called the Podcast of O. We talk about Green Lantern. And then they get the blank look on their face, right? Who's Green Lantern? What are you talking about? Because half these people don't know, right?
And then you're down the rabbit hole, man.
Yeah, so.
I had some people contact me early on thinking it was a podcast for Overeaters Anonymous. And
are you kidding me?
I am not kidding you. I am not kidding you. And when they listened to the episode, they were like, hey, I'm glad you're doing this show about, I can't wait to listen to an episode. And then they kept me like, what the heck? And it was, it is what it is, man.
That's good. Good
It
stuff.
is what it is. Hey, Chad and Mark, those guys, they stole the lantern. They got the lantern cast first. So we had to come up with something different.
We did. I love it. Wouldn't change it for the world.
Nope, it is what it is. But I enjoy doing it. I hope people enjoy listening and or watching, however you get it. And we're here for the long term, and I can't wait to talk about the Green Lantern some more in the next week or two.
Me too. Hey, side note question before we go. So you
Sure.
got your Coast City shirt on?
My what? My coast what?
Coast City.
Oh,
White
it didn't sound like you said city.
Sorry. So my dark side is reversed, right? Because look at
No, it's correct
it's good for
on
you.
my
It's
end.
reversed for me. So right.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, it's correct. It's correct for me.
All right. Cool. All right. Awesome.
It's all good.
All good.
Otherwise, it would have been C dice card. Dice crad. No, it looks good. Looks good.
Good. Awesome.
All right. Well, friends, we'll be talking to you again soon. Until next time, treat each other well, keep that power ring charged, and make every day your brightest day. Talk to you soon. Thanks so much for watching this Green Lantern video from the blog of Oa. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find even more great Green Lantern videos, reviews, podcasts, and more at our main website, www.blogofoa.com. So until next time, keep your power ring charged and make every day your brightest day.